you don't have a tape recorder, I don't think you remember the answer.
Well,
You have to bring your tape recorder because the answers are outside of your ordinary frame of reference, otherwise you'd be able to answer those questions. Here's the answer. Many years ago they said, there are two kinds of people. The rulers, the leaders, and the followers. That's nice and simple. God made some people to rule and others to follow. That makes it real convenient. So I grabbed 30,000 slaves, and they worked for me. And he says, why don't you educate them? I said, they weren't meant to be educated. Look how simple they are. They sit and they argue all day in the field. You ever go to Haiti? You see them arguing all the time. You know, they're just simple minds. You can't educate. They've got to be born smart. So you keep them dumb. That's what Latin America's about. That's what Persia's about. That's what Italy is about. That's what France is about. There's the scupinos, the dumbbells, the people that are laborers, that are simple and ignorant. They live in the hills. This is the bullshit that they give. You can take any people out of the jungles and make them professors of mathematics if you take them as children. The myth that there are born characters that are born to do this, well, their leader will come at the right time. This is all religious shit. That there's somebody out there that's going to come at the right time and lead us out of it. Don't kid yourself. Jesus came and they let him right into shit. They crucified him. Gandhi tried to change people. They got rid of him. They got rid of a lot of people. Don't think that leaders lead anybody anywhere. The only difference is between today and the old days. In the old days, if you didn't like your neighbor, you grabbed a gun and shot him. His wife says that was terrible, you shot her. And if his kid says, why, you killed my pa, you shoot him. You sold him up, put the gun back. Today, that's outlawed. If you disagree with somebody, you can't shoot him. But every 20 years, you go out and shoot machine gun and bomb the shit out of nations. You shoot the shit out of people in mass techniques. So you're evil. So whether you would have shot 3 or 4 people next door, or wait every 20 years and blast the shit out of a nation, Korea, South Vietnam, war is the normal state. Peace is abnormal. A lot of people think, gee, they pray for peace. Peace is very rare. There's almost always war going on. And some of us get up in schools and say, well, that's human nature. There's always been war, there'll always be war. There's always that. Now the idea is, if you give people solve their basic needs, will they have incentive? Is that the question you asked? If the needs are provided, will they get good food, good housing, warmth, love, what will the incentives be? That's the question he asked. It is true. If you don't have any electrical engines or gasoline engines or sails, and you want to move a boat, the only way to move it is with slaves or your own people rowing. Now, if you don't feed them, they can't row, so you got to feed them a certain amount. If they row real well, and you give them an extra half-hour rest period, they're going to row hard all the time. That's called the incentive system. But with the advent of the steam engine, you don't care whether they can row or not. The guy says, I'm a qualified rower. We don't use them anymore. So the guy is out. Now, with technology, the typewriter, the touch typewriter, before that, you really had it way back. I seen people to press the key and practically break their knuckle. It was very hard to work a typewriter. After 3 letters in a row, your hands would ache. And most of you don't remember that. Now they got the light touch typewriter. You just pass your finger over, it goes down by itself. And you say, oh, how wonderful. But you're typing 9 times as many letters for the company. You understand what I mean? They don't pay you more. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know how they're abused. And I'm just trying to tell you something really simple. In essence, every company you work for, if you got heart disease or a brain tumor, when I own a factory, an automobile factory, there's a big machine in my plant. I asked him, the engineer, I said, what's the best oil we can use? He says, well, let me use this oil, use this weight. And she says, the best electrical systems in the machine are this. Now, if the machine breaks down, I call the best specialists. I fly them out from Boeing or wherever I got those machines to keep that machine in good shape. But if you work for my company and you start getting double vision, or your elbow starts rotting away, you've got a medical bill. Why don't I take care of you? Why doesn't the company say, look, why don't you go away for a 6-week rest? Why don't we rebuild your eyes and give you eyeglasses? And why doesn't the company write that off as tax deductible? Because that's physical equipment. They pay money for their tractors. You got a truck on a big company with holes in the tire, you got to get that off right away and put a good tire. They can't afford bad tires on the Greyhound bus. When the lights don't work, they put in new lamps. They overhaul the engines. Why don't they walk around and check out the physical condition of people and give them the best medical treatment available and deduct it as operating cost? Why? because they've conditioned you to individuality. That's your problem. But when the nation has a problem, such as they believe you're an enemy country, they say, go get them, kill them. You say, that's your fucking problem. Don't use me for that. Because if they use, during the war, they'll pump your ass full of shots, and they'll take care of your teeth and your eyes, and they'll adjust you real well. And if you wobble a little bit, they'll correct it, and they'll show you how to fire a gun and kill a bastard. But I can't kill, so don't worry about that. We'll take care of that. They'll hang a straw dummy there and stick it in, and then run it up. Right. When the straw comes out, you got it. Now twist the bayonet to make sure. The guy says, well, it's all right with a bag, but not with a man. Then they make the bag look like a Japanese fellow, say, or a German. And then the guy says, I still can't run it in there. And they say, the poor guy can't run it in there. And they take him in a room. And there's a movie made by Frank Capra, another horror. And it shows a Jap with crooked green teeth. And he comes into a house with his sweet people. And he grabs the little child and puts it on the bayonet. Bonsai! Throws her on the kid on the bayonet. Then he takes a girl, tears her blouse off and cuts her tits off. The guys are all nervous. You know? Then they say, all right, that's a Jap. Go. You can't hold him back. And he runs the bayonet because I could photograph you if I wanted to, going into a room with a child and then show a child cut up. And I say, there's the one that did it. And run your picture in the Herald and all that. Fake, you know? And you couldn't get 3 blocks away from this house without being torn to pieces. Do you know what I mean? Now, how the hell do you know what you read is so? In other words, the military has been lying to you, the government's been lying to you. What makes you think that the communists are that bad? What makes you think the Christians are that bad? Or the Mohammedans are that bad? Or the Muslims are that bad? Whenever you ask a Mohammedan what he thinks of a Christian, he lifts up his face like the fabric and he spits. That's what a Christian means to him. No, that's the way he was brought up. It makes him sick to hear the word Christian. But that isn't natural. And when you ask a Jew, what do you think of the Christian? He smiles. He says, bullshit. And you ask a Christian what he thinks of the Jews, they say, well, they're Christ killers. Well, whatever they're all full of shit. Because they're full of shit because somebody once designed a system of thought control. And that thought control was superimposed over society so they can control you with a set of values that they want you to have. Now watch this. If a person is given everything they need, would they lose their incentive? Here's the answer. If your father's a multimillionaire and he sends you to finishing school, the best universities in the country, you say, Dad, I'd like to have a car. And he buys you a brand new Mercedes. That doesn't spoil you. Then every son of a wealthy person that has everything is not worth a shit. That's not true. Every person born a wealthy person has got everything he wants and therefore he has no incentive. That's not true. Wealthy children have the same interest in botany, physics, chemistry as anyone else, even though their asshole's taken care of and they're wearing eyeglasses. Don't ever let anybody hand you that shit. Because I had a woman once stand up at one of my sessions 10 years ago and said, you want to give everybody things for nothing, and I believe they ought to work for it. And she was very wealthy, by the way. I didn't know that. So I asked her whether or not she'd be willing to spend an honest 2 minutes or 1 minute with me. She said, why, certainly. I said, did you marry into wealth? She says, yes. I said, roughly, is your old man worth over $2 million? She says, yes. I said, did you have that kind of money when you married him? She says, why, no. The car you drive, did you work for it? She says, well, no, my husband bought it for me. And what about the house you live in with the 9 rooms, air conditioning, swimming pool, tennis court? Well, my old man bought it for me. Aren't you getting all that shit for nothing? And you're out there saying those goddamn people are out on strike, they don't want to work for a living? Why, most women I know that married into wealth don't move their ass. They say, honey, I'm expecting company tonight. Whip up a nice apple pie and cook and set the table. And they go out to the country club. You know what I mean? And all the other asses are working. You don't understand. If that spoiled women, I don't know if that spoils them. If I gave you a guaranteed income of $50,000 a week, I don't know if it's going to spoil you. You might go to the Salvation Army and help them out. You might send your kid brother through school and help your grandfather get a new set of false teeth. I don't know what you do, but I don't think it's going to spoil you. Now, the kind of people it'll spoil are people with brain damage. They can only become more atrocious, but they're already in power. They're in government. They have nothing to worry about. How money's going to spoil people. Everybody says if you give everybody everything they want, it'll spoil them. And then they're all trying to get everything they can get home. Have you noticed that? Everybody wants to get spoiled. They want to get as much money as they can in the shortest period of time. So think of what spoiled means. The rich men say, why, if you gave everybody everything they wanted, it would spoil them. This guy with this tremendous gut and holiness. He says, you don't want to give everybody everything, do you? Bankers go like that. Why, if you gave them all that, it would spoil them. This guy's got all that. It's like the story about the communists. Remember? He says, if you had 2 Rolls Royces, would you give me one? And he says, yes. He says, if you had 9 castles, would you give them away to the poor? Yes. If you had 2 shirts, would you give me one? He says, no. Why not? Because I've got 2 shirts. So the whole story, the antagonism against the communists and the antagonism against the free enterprise system, these were the jokes told. Is Castro good or bad? Castro is not smart enough to be good, and your president, Ford, is too dumb to be good, and your vice president is an asshole, and they're all the same. There's just no difference. A Russian mother doesn't spit on his children. She picks them up and plays them just as you. If they didn't speak in an accent, they have the same feelings you have. When a communist screws a girl, he has the same kind of orgasm. He doesn't have a communist orgasm. When a mother kisses her child, she doesn't have a communist kiss. They don't have communist piles, or Jewish piles, or Polish piles. There's only one kind of pile. They hurt. And when you get sand in your eye, whether you're Greek or a Jew or a rabbit, it hurts. And the idea is to get rid of these myths of all these different kinds of people. You think they're real. They talk about races as though they were the Jewish race. Let me tell you what a Jew is. A Jew is a group of people that once believed in magic, certain types of magic, and a guy came with a long white beard and sold them another brand of magic. And they bought it. And they followed Moses, or they followed Yahweh, they followed some philosophy, or Abraham, and they took on that point of view. Now another guy came up and made a speech, and some of these Jews followed him. And they were called Christians, just because they followed. Now if I raised my children to be scientific mechanists, they said, well, I don't want your child playing with my little mechanists. See? As though they're different. All human beings start in the same pot. Somebody makes a speech. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. So they follow him. Muhammad. See, they're Mohammedan. They're full of shit, too. They all come from the same start. They think they're different. He faces the east, you face the north, I face the instrument panel. We face different things. If you want information, you work at it. Now, all of us have been brought up with romantic horseshit, and we seek magic. We knock wood. There's hardly any wood around here. We knock wood. It's mostly stainless steel. Terrible. But anyway, when something bad happens, we look for wood to knock on. Now, you don't think knocking wood is going to change the mind of God, do you? Or the devil, for that matter. You don't think wearing a little garlic around your neck is going to keep evil spirits away. If God wanted your asshole to burst into flames, you're not going to get down on your knees and say, don't cause my asshole to burst into flames. He doesn't give a shit about your persuasive techniques. In other words, people, look at this. When you ask God to take care of your brother-in-law that's sick, you're assuming that he doesn't know your brother-in-law is sick and he doesn't need help. If he's as smart as you make him out to be, I don't think you ever have to pray for anything. All you have to do is look up and wink. But you don't need to say, my children are out at sea and they haven't come home and nobody found them yet, so you get down on your knees. And he's so busy making new universes that he literally stops. He says, what was that? The children lost them. Where? In the Gulf Stream. And then he blows. And the wind blows him over, and then he whispers in the ear of the navigator on a search ship, and the ship goes out and fires it. God says, that was very loud. No, don't make an idiot out of God. A jerk. When you get down on your knees, you change his mind. Because all the farmers pray for rain, and all the Boy Scouts pray for dry weather so they go out on a picnic. And God listens to most of them, so you get lightning, storms, cholera, rattlesnakes, everything. In other words, the whole shed is no good. There are floods, earthquakes, and if you look at the wonders of nature, you must look at the shit of nature, too. And some of the idiots in the church think that the reason a man suffers is to make him wise. Deep wisdom comes through pain and suffering. So all you have to do is design a wheel that you turn with splinters generated and make everybody suffer. Make the president wiser too, and everybody else. The idea is that suffering occurs because of ignorance. And religion, no matter what religion, as long as it doesn't deal with problem solving, there will be war and hatred and jealousy and envy in the church and amongst religious people. And like I said yesterday, God doesn't hang a pecker on a guy and say, don't use it until you're married. And he doesn't make a vagina lubricate and say, don't lubricate until you're married. God, if he's intelligent, he makes a pecker pop out when you get married. Bingo. The guy now has a penis. In other words, the whole design of nature is insane. It's an insane conglomeration of disease. Every organ of the human body is harassed by different types of antagonistic organisms. So don't think that giving people things change them. If you know anybody's got a lot of money, say that it spoil you. The fact that you can buy a yacht, go skiing, fly to France, does that spoil you? He said, why no? What makes you think? I think it'll spoil you because you haven't got anything. I've got a lot. And I don't think it'll do you any good at all. So the guy that's sitting up there telling you how much it'll spoil people is usually a guy that's got everything. The king says, I'm king because I was meant to be king. Until somebody throws him out and burns him. And she says he was meant to be thrown out and burned. And my brother was meant to be the new king. And everybody says, amen. And then they burn your brother and say he was meant to be burned too. So they change the books. The Bible's been changed so goddamn many times. Every year there's over 600 new religions in America alone. And next year's going to be more. And they throw away a lot of religions. And so people turn to religion because understanding the real world is difficult. That's why they turn to religion. That's why they turn to magic. When you tell me, Fresco, when you get a crop failure, don't irrigate and study the corn. Face the east. Lie on the ground, throw yourself humble before the heavenly forces. And then you'll get a good crop. You'll have a good crop. There's just no basis for it. If you don't irrigate, put minerals in the soil, you don't get a good crop. It never works unless floodwaters bring minerals in the area. Now, you don't get healthy beef unless the animals eat well. And you don't get a healthy child unless it's well-fed and kept free of noise and pain and lack of love. If you give them all those things, you don't have any